To moderate this session, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Femi Adiagbo. Mr. Femi Adiagbo is the principal, Comnavic ICT Advisors, and he will be moderating this panel discussion. So please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Olufemi Adiagbo and as I hand over the microphone to him. Mr. Femi. Youth, and this is the time to do so. Please have your seat as we begin. The panel discussion is about to begin. Please have your seat. But Honorable said we should go on. Yes, the Honorable Minister of Sports and Issues. Sorry. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Nigerian youth. Thank you so much. I would also like to welcome a young Nigerian who will be joining this panel, Oluwapamile Rebecca. Oluwapamile Rebecca, please join the panel discussion as one of our panelists alongside the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs, and the Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment. I'll hand over the microphone to the moderator for this panel discussion. Ms. Oluwapamile Rebecca, are you there? Oluwapamile Rebecca? Yes, please. Thank you so much. A great Nigerian youth. Put your hands together for her as she runs over to the stage. I'll hand over the microphone to the moderator of this session, Mr. Femi Adiagbo. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Can we please settle down? The nurse president is not here. Where is he? Bring him. Can we please settle down? Please, anyone that is here is a Nigerian youth and you have the right to be here. But the right you have stops at the right of the next youth. Can you hear me? I will respect the right of every Nigerian youth to be in this place today. But the right you have does not extend to the right of the other youth. I see so many of the youth sitting down quietly. If you are here and you don't want to be here, you have every right to leave this place. The right you don't have is to disrupt this, to try to disrupt our proceedings. Therefore, I'm appealing for calm from everyone. If you have any grudges, if you have any complaints, you can pass it on to the ministry staff and the organizers. I see them, they are speaking to you. But if you want to showcase, I believe that you are great Nigerian youth of noble character. You have the opportunity to show that you are of noble character. We're on national television. We're streaming live. People will see the demonstration of the Nigerian youth. We're on full display. It is left to you. Government has provided a platform for you to come and speak and engage government, not to come and fight or disrupt. The choice this afternoon is yours. We have provided the platform, the enablement. Every of our plans will kick into action. But if you have any other ulterior motive, we will find out and we will meet you. Please, if you have any complaints, see our organizers and my directors. They will process those complaints, but this conference must go on. Thank you. No, it's okay. Stop filming now. That's not it. I'm trying to calm them. You want to calm them? We're studying. No problem. It's no problem. Take your mic.
Test.
Honorable Minister, sir. Okay, Honorable Minister, sir. Minister of Women Affairs, good afternoon again, ma. Rebecca, good afternoon. Mrs. Uwais, good afternoon. This session addresses discussions about what needs to be done in terms of laying the foundation for youth inclusiveness in nation building and security. I'd like to start now with you, Minister of Women Affairs. How do you think we can expand and incorporate more young women in our political space, given not only the relative dominance, but I would say the, should I say the very aggressive nature of it, the potent nature of it. So how have people like you navigated these stormy waters? I think it's a question a lot of our youth, especially the women, want answers to, because you're quite an inspiration to many of them. So in short, I would bounce the question around, but I think it will be very useful to hear your perspectives on that. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay. Are you...
Interesting question, and it's a question that is very dear to my heart. Youth inclusiveness, particularly in the political space. Sure, for us to see a better tomorrow, we must bridge the gap to include and give more room to the young female youths who are very much interested in politics. But the issue is the starting point is the political parties. The political parties, looking at the nature of all our political parties, let's take the two major political parties, the APC and the PDP. These two major political parties and all other political parties, they are in large numbers. All the political leadership, the party structure, is very, very gender insensitive, because where you have a structure of a political party, a national working committee of about 30 people with only one woman leader, what do you expect one voice to do in a large gathering of about 30 people? These are the key party officials that take decisions in the preparatory process, selling the form, handling the primaries of elections that leads to the emergence of a candidate to contest election. You cannot just without your party. But the party structure is not favorable to the youth, the young men or the young ladies. It's best too young to run, B. But what is left, what needs to be done, is amending the party structure at the party level. Us include more female in the party structure in order to address the issue of not marginalized candidates. If we are able to address this, and I want to tell you what Israel has been doing. I've been working with the committee that is working on amending the party constitution. Not just the APC party, but all the other parties. We've reached out to them, and I must commend some of the men in that committee that are quite gender sensitive, and we've addressed them and put. We are hoping very soon the report of the party amendment committee will be out. We've seen the national party chairman, we've seen all the party structures, and we've seen. I've led a powerful delegation of civil society women politicians, not once, not twice, across the political party, address the committee. And I'm hoping that if the party constitution is amended, we will have more female as candidates. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. That was a comprehensive response. Before I ask the next question, which I'll direct at Rebecca, can we have one house, please? Thank you. I want to lay two quick things on the ground. One, about half of our population, I'd say about 48%, Rebecca, is actually under the age of 15. So we do have a highly dependent population. So when you hear this figure of 200 million Nigerians, you need to discount about 88 million of them in terms of dependent demography. Now, my question to you is, I know you're involved with leadership, empowerment, and resource network. My question to you is this: how do we curate the minds of our current youth in terms of politics, nation building? Because they need to start curating the minds of 88 million people very, very quickly before they themselves are, if you like, through the growth curve. Is there anything specifically you are doing in your, in terms of your leadership, empowerment, and resource network to address engagement in the political and nation building process? Because it's as important as giving skills and education and all the other inputs required. Is there anything in particular you're doing?
Thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity, and I'm very happy and honored to be on this panel with my role models. For me, at the Leadership Empowerment and Resource Network, I work as the Education and Scholarship Liaison Officer. So I'm with a lot of young children, secondary school students most especially, and we can see the eagerness in them to volunteer and to work for this country. Now, just like I mentioned before, a lot of us have a lot of energy that needs to be put into productive activities. Now, if we do not have systems in place, we will have young people becoming bandits, becoming armed robbers, becoming wrong and bad people in the community because we have the energy that we can put into work. Now, if we have communities where people can volunteer, some people don't even want money to actually put to work. Some people just want the recognition that, oh, I'm working for my community, I'm working in my state, I'm working in my local government. Sometimes we just want to be heard. We have systems in place. Say, for instance, we can have some football tournament. We can have some skill tournament, some activity that we can do, that we can bring young people into. From there, we begin to sense leadership we can develop. People who are armed robbers, who are people that we consider as bad society in the community, are living where they living, feel like we are doing the right thing. If you ask somebody that is a Robin Hood, they will think that, oh, we are helping the community, we are doing something for the community. But there are ways to do things right. So our morals we need to up our moral game, like we young people say. So this way, when we all together and put work together, we pull our energy together. If there's something that we need to do, if there's in our community, if to contribute money and say, okay, one of us be the head and be the one in charge of making sure that there's water in our community. Yes, we can do these things instead of just going around and doing whatnot. There are a lot of things that we can do to help our country. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. A round of applause for Rebecca. That was a very good response. Rebecca raised a couple of issues there about opportunity, about systems, but I also want to talk about choices before I ask my question, because when we promote a narrative, if I say, that it's always lack of opportunity or access that leads to crime and all these other things, at times, without realizing it, we demean those who do the hard work and the right things, because people make choices as well. But we cannot ignore the fact that this exclusion gap creates, I would say, a trust deficit, if you like. People are still trying to deal with poverty at the grassroots. So when you talk about politics, at times they don't clearly see the linkage between their status and governance. With your experience in the social investment space, has it been focused only on alleviating poverty, or also using that alleviation of poverty to drive governance inclusiveness and awareness about nation building? Or are we dealing with really tactical problems of rescuing them from situations now? I just wondered whether you could shed some light on that for us.
So thank you very much, honorable ministers and people on the high table and the youth. It's a very interesting question you ask. There are huge problems in this country. There are many challenges, and we have focused, at least I supervised the social investment programs between 2015 and 2019, and we engaged a lot of youth, especially those who had some measure of education, the N-Power, they applied online. We had a lot of youth that were cooking, young ladies that were cooking in the N-Power, in the school feeding program. And we have a social register that has at least about 34% youth below the age of 24 years. And this is a huge material or energy for us to be able to improve on what we have. We seem to have, however, not engaged those who have no education and no skills. So when you say we offer people choices, they must have the choice first, right? And so many of them feel hopeless because they're angry with the system. Government has not engaged them. And even in the conversation with youth, the conversation tends to be about those who do have some education, who are able to engage on the social media, who have devices, who have, the opportunities. One of the programs we're looking at now in the Office of the Vice President is how to engage those who have no skills, and they're huge in number. The challenge is they have slipped through the cracks in many of the states. So we're looking at how to use youth or to employ youth to actually work in, addressing the challenges of their peers and those that have, and the children who have no education. Because the sheer numbers overwhelm the state capacity. If you look at the numbers of children in public schools, the numbers, in fact, the infrastructure that exists, the numbers of teachers, we saw it under N-Power. In some of the public schools, only N-Power or NYSC teachers were teaching. Now, what we're trying to do under the At-Risk Children's Program is to engage youth who are educated but unemployed that live within the communities. And we're training them on cross-cutting issues. So child pedagogy, on child rights, on mental health, how to curb substance abuse through sports, vocations, agriculture, entrepreneurship, also basic M&E. about 50 per local government, and getting them to now mentor and supervise and coach the children and the youth who are within their communities, who, because they have some measure of education, we see them as their supervisors, and they will give us feedback on each and every child assigned to them. So 50 per local government should be able to create an army of capacity and feedback, monitoring, supervising, mentoring, because a lot of these children's parents did not really place much premium on education. But if you have a young person that's educated, that young person can say to that child that's out of school, go back to school. And this has to go on. We need to challenge the youth who are in huge numbers to actually take responsibility for the children and the youth around them. This is the only way we can grow as a country. And we must, I mean, there's a lot that has happened that should not have happened or should be happening, but it's never too late. And this is why, you know, I really think this is a very good forum for us to be able to engage and listen and get the youth to even understand what the challenges are. We saw it a lot after the NSAS program. There was a lot of anger, a lot of it was valid, but the way to address it, understanding the issues, public governance, getting into it's beyond being confrontational, because being confrontational doesn't get you anywhere. You just create tensions and you close the communication channels. We have to continue to talk to one another because this country belongs to all of us, and we must make an effort to make it work. Thank you.
That's, thank you very much, Ma. Excellent, comprehensive response. Take some, but Honorable Minister, I want to ask you very quickly. You've listened to what Rebecca has said in terms of empowerment. You've listened to what Mrs. Uwais has said in terms of how, if you like, the grassroots aspects impact development. You've also listened to what the Honorable Minister has said. And many may not realize it, but you have advocated and also moved from the notion of just empowerment now to investment. Because you see, when you invest, it's a statement of faith, it's a statement of confidence. So, Honorable Minister, I wanted to ask you one about what the plans are in the future for the Youth Investment Fund you spoke about earlier on, and one or two other, if you like, flagship initiatives which you are targeting at really investing in the Nigerian youth so that become viable and sustainable members of Nigeria's development. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Femi, for this opportunity. And let me thank the speakers before me, the Honorable Minister, Mrs. Uwais, and our young lady. Let me say that if you back up 1 year, and then you look at the last 12 months, and I'm sure most of our youth here know what I'm talking about. After the dust settled down, we have seen a responsive government either accelerate its youth-focused programs or create new ones. And we have seen a lot of attention paid to youth issues. We've seen youth programs expanded from 500 to 1 million. We've seen engagement with youth deepen. The youth now get attention. Anywhere the youth is mentioned, people pay attention. That is the kind of atmosphere that brings development. Where there's rancor, where there's disruption, not just with government, even within a family unit, even within an organization, once there's rancor, you cannot have progress. And I think what our youth need now is a kind of conversation that brings about progress. is a kind of peaceful confrontation that respects the rights and views of others. As much as the youth have common ground, what is important to one youth is different from another youth. One youth wants quality education. Another youth wants a career. Another youth wants to become a successful entrepreneur and businessman. So there are different conversations at different levels that must take place. But then we cannot drown out our voices, because even the demands you have will not be heard or respected if you try to drown out the voices of others. Around the world, the youth agitation is the same. The issues around the youth are the same. And every youth in every clime is engaging not just government, the public, but also engaging the private. And that means when we have opportunities like this, rather than miss this opportunity, we seize this opportunity to speak with the government, to tell the truth to power in a constructive way. Some of us here will take that message along, we act with it. Our proceedings in the next 2 or 3 days will be put together, will be read by your team, certified as an action plan and demand by the Nigerian youth, will be presented to Mr. President, and will carry it forward. That is the future of progress for the development of our youth that I see. That template cannot be different. It is a global template. It is the United Nations template. It is the African Union template. It is the Nigerian template. And that is what I advise for the Nigerian youth. We have moved from just training our youth, taking them out of unemployment, training them, and then putting them back into the unemployment market. That used to be the way things used to be. We've developed what we call training into enterprise. That is, whatever training we do now must lead into some form of entrepreneurship to make our youth self-starters, wealth creators, and also contributors to national development. This morning we walked through 10 different Pocados out there with Mr. Vice President. We saw 21-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 17-year-olds who are young entrepreneurs who are making a mark. There's no country in the world that has solved the youth unemployment problem without deliberately placing its youth on the path of entrepreneurship. There's no silver bullet against unemployment, but there are different types of bullets and models we can use, and that is the commitment. The Nigerian Youth Investment Fund is geared in that direction. The JIP is geared in that direction. NPower, in its own way, provides our youth the cognitive experience that they need to forge ahead. And I think the totality of the programs you see in ministries, departments, and agencies are focused beyond just empowerment, but investing in the lives of our youth. The country is taking a risk and a bet on our youth, and is not worried about what comes out of that investment, whether it's lost or not, but is concerned about providing the opportunity for the average Nigerian youth to become an entrepreneur, to become a self-starter, to start a business and survive, to get quality education, and so on and so forth. Finally, let me say this. We believe, just like the Africa Development Bank has said, that it is time to have youth development banks. There will be non-interest loans and grants for our youth. Nigeria has taken that first step. The Nigerian Youth Investment Fund is 5%, but I assure you, by the time it gets to the second and third year, it will become, a large part of it will be just mere grants and will be interest-free. The Africa Development Bank is leading in that direction. Nigeria started that process July last year, and I think that is the future for our youth, to support their enterprises, to support their skills, to provide them with skills for the 21st century digital economy that we have. Even when you move out of this country, if you don't have the skills that you need, you will not get the job that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next question, I think I'll let all the panelists chip in and answer. And it may be a bit of a difficult question. I will target it really at the Minister of Women Affairs, because women are so centric in our lives. We all came from mothers, so we would not be here without women. End of story. But, and you mentioned something interesting. On the exhibition stand, it was women, you know, the lady who made the furniture with tires, Unyida, Nkem. You know, I see the entrepreneurship. I know a lot of young ladies who work very hard and make some very serious money, actually, from this hard work, this same environment. But Rebecca, what worries me and what worries a lot is what I would call, I don't know, cross-cultural confusion. I watch about 10 music videos these days, and out of 10, about 8, if they are not showing our young ladies in some state of relative undress, this are objectifying them. The songs are saying, I'm going to buy you, basically they're objectifying them. While we are talking about gender equality, we are talking about the girl child, we are talking about uses against women, but it's becoming our mainstream pop culture to present young women as half-naked, twerking, objects to be paid. In the song, we actually did a survey, we went through about 40 songs, and out of about 40 songs, about 36 had of come and collect money, and, you know, so how do we stem this tide before the dam actually bursts? I think I want to push that question to everybody, but starting with you now, because I know you are the champion advocate of this. How do we
Stem the tide.
turn it down a bit? Yes.
Thank you very much. This is a very, very interesting question. A question that worries me a lot. It's quite disturbing, but all of us need to rise up to address this trend. I remember early this year, because of this trend, I had to pay a visit to the Minister of Information and Culture, because the music industry is under him. I discussed that, and he showed a lot of concern, and we must address this issue from the music industries. We must discourage such things. We must intensify advocacy at the community level with our traditional rulers, with our community leaders, with our political leaders. Things are changing. If you look at most marriages these days, the bride price or the sadaki, sometimes just 10,000 is just a token. It's not anything to write about. It's not what it used to be, a huge amount that will be paid as dowry. It is just a little token to keep or to appease either the parents or to show a sign of commitment that they are taking your child. But times are changing, and parents must wake up to their responsibility. Our communities must be well informed, especially community leaders, political leaders, to address this, that parents should not in any way encourage this. But the music industry, such films must be discouraged. We must portray films that is gender sensitive, that portrays the strength of both the young men and women. Parents must also treat their children equally at home. parents should never differentiate or see the male child as superior to the female child. I thank God, since after my marriage, I can showcase myself as an example. I have 4 girls and 1 boy, and I never, for one day, showed him that he's superior to the girls. During holidays, I engage them in sweeping, cleaning the house, doing everything. Not that I cannot afford cooks, so they cook in turns. And I will tell you that my male child, the son, even cooks better than my female daughters. So they are all treated equally. And that is what I'm advocating for every home. It must start from the home front. Parents, leaders, at the workplace, at the home front, we must treat our children at equal level. Treat the girl child and the boy child as equal partners, and each of them can contribute meaningfully and at the same level to national development. There is nothing the boy child can do that the female child cannot do. I don't think there's any profession today that the girl child has not excelled. None. We have female pilots that are doing well. In fact, she's coming at the next panel discussion. You can see here, we have female as senior police officers. We have the most senior police officer, AIG, Aisha Abubakar. She has sent a representative is here. We have General Christina Thomas, Brigadier General, a female, in the military, in the army today. In the Navy, in the Air Force, there is virtually no profession. Engineers, name it. So women can match at par with all our boys. I am therefore appealing to well-meaning Nigerians, political leaders, religious leaders, community leaders, parents, to treat our children on equal status. They must be treated at the same level and be given the same responsibility and encourage them to do it. And the girl child has proved herself worthy so far. All they need is our support and encouragement. And we must discourage anything that portrays buying the girl child or using her as an object or exposing her body. That is unacceptable, and it's even against our culture and our religion. Thank you.
You want to go next, ma'am? We'll take a quick comment, and then we'll take 2 questions from the audience, so you can prep the questions, and then we'll go for lunch after that. Ma'am, so what do we do?
I think in addition to the advocacy that we need to keep persistently doing, I believe we need to focus on those issues and have a concerted effort. I remember about 8-9 years ago, even before I came into government, I was in civil society, and because we were doing a lot of work that had social impact connotations, MacArthur Foundation actually sponsored us to engage with Nollywood, to give them the statistics of challenges relating to maternal mortality, early marriage, a lot of issues that sensitized many of them as to what the issues are really that need to be tackled. And since then, we've seen a lot of films that are very, constructive, that actually disclose, how to address some of these problems that we see emerging. Because what it is that culturally, some of those practices, we don't draw the linkages between how harmful they are and the outcomes in our lives. So, example, early marriage. We don't draw out the fact that because the girl is getting married early, this is the reason why her baby is malnourished, and this is why she is malnourished, or this is why there's so many, about 60-70% of them, in VVF hospitals. They don't have agency, and this culminates in poverty. You know, so in the same way, exposing the body, I think, is something that people believe will bring money, you know, and we need to attack that headlong. We need to focus on that and make them realize that it is actually demeaning. It's demeaning the sanctity of femininity, and try and engage them directly so that they produce, you know, songs that actually help us address our challenges as a country. And it may seem tedious, but it's very, very possible. When I was very young, we had lyrics that were nice, and those lyrics are what I still listen to when I go walking, because they're really nice, they're very soothing. They're not the noise and the fight, the tension that we hear nowadays. And I think we need to have a strategy to address that directly, rather than, just leave it to advocacy. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I thought that was excellent. Rebecca, do we just accept it? Woke culture, that's just the way the world is going, just, flow with it. You guys are just old and you don't understand what we're doing. Or do we need youths to, let's basically have the decent youths and the ones that go a bit over the top? Because I've seen and listened to quite some songs that traumatize even me, and I think I'm a bit liberal-minded. So is it wokeness, or what's happening? Is it part of the leadership empowerment drive you're pushing, or is it something that is a blind spot at this point in time?
Thank you again, sir. As I grow older, I think the words of our parents, the proverbs that they used to share with us when we were growing up, has begun to now resonate with me more. Like when they say, how you dress is how you are addressed. This is one thing, and then there is another, that the people that our parents used to warn us about, then, that don't follow this child, I don't like how this person behaves, this person should not be your friend, are the people that we are now running after because of how much they have grown in their financial capabilities, because of the things that our parents said they are doing that made them say we shouldn't be their friends. Can you see the cultural change there? It's like we have forgotten our culture, we have forgotten our morals. Is it possible that we need to relearn them? Is it possible that somebody needs to come back and share those stories of tortoise and dog, when tortoise and dog used to go to the farm and steal, and what happened to the dog? Do you know how those stories now make sense to me more now that I'm older? Maybe we need to bring those stories back. We need to bring them back, right? So those proverbs, we should bring them back. We should even say them to ourselves in our language. It's not English. Ọmọ tó mọ̀yà rẹ̀ lójú o, ó ṣì ní tọmọ náà pa. Ọba máa tó jìyà pọ̀ lórí ẹ̀, bàbá tó jìyà pọ̀ lórí ẹ̀. Ọmọ tó mọ̀yà rẹ̀ lójú o, ó ṣì ní tọmọ náà pa. Those songs, those stories from our grandparents, we need to bring them back. Young people need to listen to them again. We can't keep going around not wearing clothes, naked, and doing the wrong things. We need to do the right things. We need to leave a good legacy for the people coming behind us, just like the ones going ahead of us have left for us. Thank you.
Wow, a round of applause again for Rebecca. That was amazing. On this topic, and we need to stay strictly within this topic. So I'm going to take two questions. Mr. Matthew, protocol. Is there a second mic? Okay. Okay, so let's keep it brief, but really the question is, what can we do to stem the tide of the contrarian culture that we see now and which is affecting national security, nation building, and the moral compass of our society as a whole in very adverse ways. So, do you have anyone there? Yep. You want this mic? There you go. Thank you. Your name and
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Oluwatomishi Adeagbo. I'm a medical doctor by training from Oyo State. And locally, I represent all the good people of Ibadan under the auspices of the Central Council of Ibadan Indigenes. Thank you very much. We are so happy for a program like this. Quickly, what I want to say is, on the part of communication, I realize that the federal government, the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, and other parastatals, they have beautiful programs for the youth. Recently, as the youth leader in Ibadan, I started scouting for opportunities for youth. I was at the office of the National Directorate of Employment, Industrial Trading Fund, and we realized that there are many opportunities in this regards. But it's so unfortunate that the communication gap is wide. We want the government to work more on that. Let's come down to the local level. There are a lot of youths out there that benefit from these opportunities. As a scenario, recently, the Industrial Trading Fund gave us about 20 slots for youth to go and learn plumbing and soft work. And it's so unfortunate that youths out there that actually need it do not have the information. We actually scouted for this information on their behalf. I want to advise, let's improve, let's increase the communication, even to the grassroots, and these opportunities will be better felt by the youth of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. I think that deserves a round of applause. So we'll take one, still on the topic. I know that was tangential to it, but it still addressed it, but still on the topic of how we, away from just gender, how do we rediscover some aspects of our morality for national building. Yeah, female. That's her. She's the one, yeah. She's the one, yes. So, madam, yeah, she's female. Yeah, no. Yes, name, please. Thank you very much. Do you want to answer quickly? Do you want to respond? But before you respond, that is also, thank you very much. It's a very good point. But if you look at this, let the youth decide. That's part of why we're here, to actually design and discuss how best do we design frameworks that address these challenges. But I think the Honorable Minister, before we go for lunch, just may want to say one or two things very quickly about the measurement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The two questions and also comments that came forth are on point. Let me quickly respond to the first youth that spoke. I think you spoke very well. And I think once we break into our thematic sessions, some of these issues will come out, and I will need the youth to really vibrate during those sessions. Because when you speak up, then you lead us on the path of decision. We put down these ideas of yours, we crunch them together, and that can serve as a basis for action. I agree that our programs must cascade to the local levels. But I often say repeatedly that the youth business is everybody's business. The youth business is everybody's business. You have different ministries, departments and agencies involved in youth development. But also, at the subnational level, when the federal government starts a program, we expect the state to plug into that program. We expect the local government. So there's a cascade model. If along the line that cascade model has been short-circuited, we will decide and find a way in which to restart that, so that whatever is starting as a national policy at the top goes down to the level. That is happening now, but we need to accelerate and increase that. And the same goes to the second question. The theme of this conference, let the youth decide. After this plenary, we're going to have breakout sessions. Today and tomorrow will be critical. At these breakout sessions, you can speak out your mind. Just don't stop with asking questions. Start to profile solutions now. That is the essence of this conference. Engage the government and to say, I live in X local government. I don't hear about this program. This is what I think government should do henceforth when you are doing this program. Then we need to also include the youth in the monitoring and evaluation. That is what has been missing. We set up a team of expert consultants. They go out there to evaluate. We get their feedback. Excellent. But I think when we talk about inclusivity, every point of government conception of program, implementation of program, evaluation of program, monitoring of program, the youth of this country must be involved. So I advocate that for our monitoring and evaluation for any government program, we must include the youth to evaluate, because they are the direct beneficiaries and they can give testimonials to what government has done. But I believe the next sessions we're going to have today and tomorrow, smaller units in different parts of this building, will give you the opportunity. We have moderators, we have rapporteurs who will provoke you to go beyond just asking questions. We're saying now, move to the next stage. Profile solutions. Give us better ideas. Together, we'll look at them. We can decide on the ones that are practicable, that are dynamic, that are reasonable, and we'll make them part of the program of action. For me, the takeaway from this session today is that when you talk about inclusivity, it must involve the youth at every point when it comes to program execution and implementation. That's one. Two, we must work out a cascade system that ensures that whatever programs we have gets down to the youth at the state, the local government levels. But beyond that, so that I will not run the risk of having the wrath of the Minister of Women Affairs, that every of our programs, in a deliberate way, must be henceforth gender sensitive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Minister of Women Affairs. Mrs. Uwais, thank you very much. Rebecca, thank you very, very much. I'll hand over to Mrs. Nkechi Obi to continue proceedings. Thank you very much, youth. You are great. Oh, picture? Okay. Rebecca, center as the youth, the people.
Youth representative. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists, for taking us through our first plenary session. A big round of applause. A big round of applause for handling a topic that's germane to everything we're doing here. Now, two things. Honorable Minister has mentioned that the plenary sessions are just introductions. There is another plenary session immediately after lunch before we start the breakout sessions. Now, let me apologize to our panelists who are all waiting. Some of them are waiting in faraway places such as Japan. Others are in Europe. Others are in America at this moment. We've been running a little bit behind time, but that is to be expected. Following lunch is being served at the moment, and while lunch is being served, we will crave your indulgence to first of all listen to a goodwill message from the European Union office here. They've been very supportive of our programs. They've been very supportive of this particular program. They've been working with the youth and youth organizations in Nigeria, and they sent there's a goodwill message from their ambassador here. Please, if you have queued that message, you will play it, and then immediately after the goodwill message from the EU, there will be a documentary, very short, telling you what's going to happen later this afternoon and tomorrow morning. The breakout sessions are for you, as the minister said, to come and express yourself, to come and share your ideas, to come and proffer solutions. They will be smaller, and one of them will be taking place here. That will be politics, nation building, peace, unity, and security. Interested in that thematic area, please gather here from after the gender session. All those interested in education, innovation, and technology for youth development, please make your way through the iconic National Stadium, Moshood Abiola Stadium, where you will catch a glimpse of the new, refurbished, revamped, spanking clean turf that the Honorable Minister has made possible. And you make your way to the Presidential Lounge. If you are interested in sports, the soft power of sports, entertainment, and creatives, you make your way to Wing B of the Presidential Lounge. That will be your home from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock tomorrow. All breakout sessions for those 3 thematic areas will take place where I have indicated. So politics, nation building, peace, unity, and security, you stay here. Education, innovation and technology for youth development, Wing A of the soft power of sports, entertainment, and creatives, Wing B of the Presidential Lounge. Really youthful speakers waiting to engage with you. Please feel free to find your area of interest and engage with the people you have. So for now, lunch is being served. A goodwill message will play, and immediately after the goodwill message from the EU, a 10-minute documentary on the thematic areas will play. Thank you very much for your patience, for understanding, and thank you for your attention. Immediately after lunch, the gender session will start. We are holding our Honorable Minister, I hope she has not gone, to ransom today. Dame Pauline Talent, but it promises to be interesting. And we have the first Nigerian pilot of a Boeing 747 Dreamlifter waiting in Japan to speak to all of us. Thank you very much. We resume immediately after lunch in the next 30 minutes.
Mr. President, Honorable Minister,
true, of course, but youth are the present too. Today's world is home to the largest generation of young people in history. In Nigeria, 7 youth out of 10 are under 30 years old. Whether it's politics, economy, or the EU-Nigeria partnership, we need youth participation. And that is why this National Nigerian Youth Conference is so important. EU has youth in its partnership with Africa, in line with our... I have asked EU offices throughout Africa to establish a youth sounding board. I hope many of you attended the launch event of Nigeria Youth Sounding Board in September. It helps Nigerian youth to share their voices and participate in shaping policies. That means young people, particularly young women, can influence the decisions on education, health, climate, security, and job creation. It's also about building partnerships between young Africans and young Europeans. That's why we create
society where we can be proud of and also pass it on to our coming generation. Honorable Minister, sir, the Nigerian youth are here in numbers to discuss various issues from the economic angle, education, security, and all other important angles of the society. And I can assure you, sir, that going forward, that we'll continue to provide the necessary support to make sure that the ministry achieve its mandate and to also make sure that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, is able to deliver his mandate to the Nigerian youth. Thank you for bringing up this platform, and we're looking forward to more of this, where we can have a robust discussion and add value to the entire society. Once again, my name is Comrade Dotun Omoleye, the Public Relations Officer of National Youth Council of Nigeria. Thank you, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dotun. Dotun finally introduced himself. So I'm going to, I think we're done with lunch. And if that is the case, let me quickly, can I get a copy of the program, please? My copy of, Shirley, please. Oh, the program, yes. Thank you. So our session now is on the gender session, and I'm going to ask the technical people, have you hooked up to Pilot Banke? Have you hooked up to Pilot Banke Olaiwola? Can we be sure we have her online? Tomisi, can we be sure we have Pilot Banke Olaiwola online? Pilot Banke's story is incredible. She's Nigeria's first female Boeing 747 Dreamlifter pilot. Now you all have your phones here. The Wi-Fi here is incredible. Please Google what being flying a Boeing 747 Dreamlifter is, and you would understand why her story is very, very encouraging. More so as she started off in Nigeria. So we should actually we should stop saying good things cannot come out from here. Pilot Banke Olaiwola grew up in Ibadan, Oyo State. Big ups to you. Banke grew up in Ibadan, Oyo State, in the western part of Nigeria. She did her primary, secondary education in Ibadan and later proceeded to obtain a bachelor's degree in health education from OAU Ile-Ife. She worked with Etihad Airways, and this gave her an opportunity to travel around the world. She also was employed here by ARIC, flying a Boeing 737-800. So Banke has always kept her foot in here, and was a good jump start for her career as a female pilot. The other good point in her career has been the privilege to fly an MD-88. MD-88 gave her confidence that she could be a good female pilot, because those aircrafts are referred to as mad dog. After conquering how to fly a mad dog, you can fly any aircraft. So Banke was in Japan over the weekend. I think she flew cargo over to Atlanta, and she's now hooked up in Atlanta. Can you assure me she's on so that I can call the other panelists and we can have a good session? The second panelist here for this session is Dame Julie Okadonli. She's the executive chairman, Roost Foundation, and she's the principal counsel of Julie Oka & Co., a firm of legal practitioners. She's also the founder of the Julie Donnelly Kidney Foundation, a non-government and non-profit organization set up to assist indigent patients suffering from kidney failure. She was Director General of NAPTIP, the Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, and she's done a lot to fight against trafficking. and modern-day slavery. She is the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the United Nations Voluntary Trust Fund for Victims of Trafficking in Persons and founder executive chairman of Roost Foundation, a non-government, non-profit organization to curb menace of irregular migration, human trafficking, sexual and gender-based violence, while providing legal, humanitarian, and financial support to victims. I'm going to call Dame Julie up. I'm going to also ask my dear friend and dear classmates who has decided to spend the day with us here, Hajia Mariam Uwais. Hajia Mariam Uwais and I knew ourselves when we were like 10 years old. So I'm going to call her up. I'm also going to ask the representative of the EU here to come join us, Miss Cecil Tazin Pelza, to join us up here. They've done a lot of work with youth, and we're going to ask them to join us up here to share their thoughts on gender inclusivity. Gender inclusivity is a hot button topic for us here, and we're going to try our very best to address that issue. Can you find Banker for me? As somebody prompted her? Facilitators, have you prompted Banker? And we'll ask people to move up. Can we ask you to move up, please, so that it's easier, that the hall looks a bit better? Please move up. And all those up there, please join us down here. It's getting much cooler. Tomisin, did you find her? If you didn't find her, we'll start. And then when you find her, you put her up, okay? Okay. So, unfortunately, our moderator is not around. So I'm going to serve as moderator today. Eh? You are spending the day. Yes, yes. You are spending the day with us now. Eh? It's not his panel now. So, his panel has been moved up by 1 hour. The next panel, okay. Thank you very much. We're just going to move straight. And I'm just going to ask, let me start with Dame Julie. Can we have everybody settle down, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So let me start with you, Dame Julie. You've done a lot of work with gender. In fact, everybody knows you for gender. It's sometimes it's difficult to remember that you've done other things, worked in other places, other than for the gender cause. So, in the light of the United Nations SDG goals and the declaration of 2011 to 2021 to 2030 as the decade of sustainability, and the fact that we need to achieve 50% gender inclusivity. We are barely managing 20%, as Dame Pauline was quick to remind us by pointing out specific places where we had erred in our program. How do you think gender inclusivity can be achieved, can be scaled up, can be done in a rapid manner to meet the UN's goals?
Thank you very much. First of all, I think education is key in all of this. I mean, if you're not educated, how would you know your rights? And, awareness, sensitization, those are also very important. People must be able to know what their rights are, first of all, and ensure that those rights are not abused and upheld. Inclusivity must be deliberate, in terms of politics, governance, and everything, every aspect, economy. I had a meeting a few days ago with a few friends, and I said to him, how many women do you have in the Ekiti State House of Assembly? And he said 4. I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are 26 and you have only 4. And he said, oh, Ekiti State is the best. I said, what? So you can imagine, because you find out that in most of the state houses of assembly, you have just 1 or 2 women. You have, like for example, now in the exco, of even the party excos, you just have maybe a woman leader. In fact, I find that title very demeaning. I don't know what woman leader means. A woman should be able to lead everyone. So I don't think that woman leader thing, I think we should discourage it. Because you see, when you begin to talk about woman leader, you're putting us, you're taking us to the background, relegating us to the background. You know what I mean? Why can't we have the chairman being a woman? Why can't we have a female governor? Why must we always be deputy or just one of the members? You know what I mean? So it has to be very deliberate. Policies have to be really deliberate to ensure that there's inclusivity in every aspect. I'll give you a quick example. I wanted to use the bathroom here. And the bathroom for me, as far as I'm concerned, the women were nobody thought about us. Because we need water, running water. We need serviettes and things like that. So even in organizations, in companies, you find out that the toilets for women are not like designed for women. It's like women are not thought of, because most of the time the policy makers are men. So they just talk about things that suits them. They don't think about us. And so we must be very deliberate. We must lobby the legislature. We must lobby the judiciary. The women leaders have to be up and standing, up and about. We are not just about woman leader or whatever. We are leaders. We should call ourselves leaders, not woman leader. You know what I mean? So it has to be deliberate. But for me, education is key. At the barest minimum, basic education for all, boys and girls, not just girls, primary school, secondary school, free and compulsory. And then, of course, every other thing would follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Education is critical. What's going to happen is that our panelists are going to speak to their own experiences, and we're going to have the opportunity to take questions from the floor. So please start getting your questions ready for this particular session, and they must speak to the issue on discussion. Gender inclusivity. How do we achieve that? Now, Mariam, I'm going to take the liberty to call you Mariam. Mariam, you've worked with children for years and years. You are working with at-risk children now. And a lot of people say the issues start from when you are young, when gender issues are actually incorporated in how we grow up, how we are trained. What has been your experience, and what would you, in the light of almost many years, nearly 40 years of doing this, what would be your recommendations for how we go back to go forward?
Well, that question is got so many angles. You want to talk about my own personal experience, or you want me to recommend what should happen? Personally? Well, I think the first thing is I became very sensitized to these issues because I had a father that was very focused on gender. He used to write in the 50s on the importance of women in Islam. And he used to talk, he was a scholar, and he used to draw out the verses that were, very powerful, but obviously culture had overshadowed. And it became such an issue for him in Kano at that point. I mean, when it started getting hot, they went to the emir and said, this man is too troublesome. His wife is driving in town and all of that. He's giving her so much power. He's allowing her to go to school, to teach, to do all of that. The emir said, why don't you write also? Because it's a debate. You know, interestingly, even though I was only 6 when he passed on, his story still reverberates. So we decided to set up an NGO in Kano just to support women and children. Well, children primarily, but because we know children are at the mercy of their parents, we realized that females, the female gender is critical, is the fulcrum upon what happens to the child. All of us are are the products of the decisions of our parents. And so I began working, and we've seen a lot of progress with the women in the community, empowering the women that are female, even if they're not as educated in the Western sense. Many of them have a very strong voice in their families. They have a strong, especially the matriarchs, the mothers of the males, and then you find that the women navigate. You know, it's so important to have the female's voice in the entire process of whatever sphere of endeavor, because the way we nurture, the way women bring people together, their children together, they mediate, they call for inclusivity. Men tend to compete. They want to overpower, they want to be the best, but women have a way of trying to bring peace into, and this is one of the reasons why we feel very strongly that, for instance, our security agencies should have more women in them, because there is a voice there of reason, a voice of moderation, a voice that is able to understand, to empathize and bring together, bring a consensus. It's very important for us, even in the political system. If we look at the electoral reform report, there was a lot there that was gender sensitive. There were issues relating to twinning, for instance. If the male, a law should be passed saying that if a male is chair, then the woman will be vice chair. If the female is chair, then the male should be vice chair. Certain, like a senatorial district, all parties should be compelled to produce female candidates. So in any event, a female would emerge. Now that was critical. Also, there was the issue of proportional listing. So females would come up, even with youth. There would be a certain number every time there was elections. But somehow all of those recommendations were dropped either at white paper level or at the National Assembly level. And I mean, the realization is there needs to be a lot of informed advocacy for people to realize that it does not benefit females alone for females to emerge. It benefits the entire space, you know, and this thing, it's working together to produce the best outcomes. And when we do that, when we do things without inclusivity, we're actually working with only half our best. So we must find a way of getting people to understand. And then it's not just any female, it's also females who understand the importance of having that voice, of having diversity within the conversation, because there's no point bringing in somebody who is so oriented, having been brought up to believe that the male is superior. The challenges females face, even in elections, there's thuggery, meetings in the night, and most women would feel it's not responsible for them to go to a meeting at 2 a.m. Even issues of being elected to the center, for instance, to a legislative body. You are taking care of the socks, you are taking care of the children going to school, and you're also going to the legislature. We need to have creches, other things that support women to actually do their work very well. So it should be a deliberate and very intentional thing, because it is clear that in many nations that have had a lot of affirmative action,
we see that there's much more progress in terms of everything rather than just the women. It's not a personal thing. It's something that really supports the progress of a country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. Now, I'm going to confess to having made a slight gaffe, and I'm going to actually ask that CP Cookie join us on stage because you mentioned something to do with security, and I'd like to get her point. So CP Cookie, please, can you do us the pleasure of joining us on stage? And he was I'd like to talk about it. So CP Cookie, can you do us the pleasure? So if you don't mind, please join us. Thank you, absolutely. And finally, we got kind of market also fantastic. So we got a full compliment, but we take CP, I'm correct, join us. And what she says is that it's about you can give us we can shut us down. Let me take our last What?
I'm going for just to dodge specific duties. So we try to tell them, let everybody know, see your best when you are not doing those things so that they know that you are capable. So for us, it's almost the same thing that other people face, in a male-dominated kind of work. What was the other? Yes. Well, generally, they've always liked to show that, men are more powerful or whatever. But the thing is, the same number of men, because naturally the population says women are more. Women are slightly. So why shouldn't we have equal number when we are being recruited into the job. So if women are more, that means we need more women. Like in an average police station, let me use that as an example, there are issues where a woman is supposed to search a female suspect, or, you know, if there's something that is missing, it's the women that are supposed to be there. Most times you don't find them there. And it's not good, it's not right for a male to search a woman. So if we don't have that equal number, that means there will be areas where you don't have enough police women to do that job. So we need the equal number so that we can do that or every other job that we're expected to do very, very well. That is what I've got to say.
Thank you very much. Your experiences and also good comes from inclusivity. phone. Can we take one mic this way? Where can we get help from the sound people? Is there a spare mic there? Can we get help from the sound people? We need a microphone here. We need a mic here, please. And we need help. We've got a couple of questions. Please, you tell us your name and we stick to the issue on hand. Gender inclusivity. The lady with the white turtleneck. Thank you.
Like the last speaker said, she said education is key. Yeah, that is true. But then, when we even talk about gender inclusivity, do we really consider women with disabilities in women movements? Do we mainstream the needs of women with disabilities into the women's rights? So what do you recommend and what do you think are the strategies that should be put in place to ensure that women with disabilities are all inclusive in women's rights and mainstreaming the needs of women with disabilities into women's rights? Thank you.
Dame Judy, would you like to address that?
Thank you very much. One thing I can assure you of is that the laws are there, but implementation is always the problem. I can tell you for free that when I was Director General in NAPTIP was one of the few agencies that had people living with disability employed, as a matter of fact. You know, so the laws are there, but implementation is key. And that is why we have to have groups, you know, that lobby the legislature, lobby women groups must be at the forefront to lobby to make sure that those who are living with all forms of disability are included in every aspect of politics, governance, economic, every aspect in the real sense of the word. So, I mean, we can't just sit, and complain or say, oh, those living with disabilities are not being carried along, as we usually say. But we must ensure that they are carried along by talking about it and ensuring that it is implemented. Thank you.
Next question. Okay. Any other question?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Aisha Saliu. I'm from Kaduna State. In addition of what my sister just said, we have youth and people living with disability, and we are being marginalized. Yes, even the women and the youth, we are not being carried along. I've been hearing culture from morning till now. All the speakers, nobody mentioned people living with disability. Are we inclusive in the program? Thank you, ma'am.
Do you want to answer that?
Well, I would say that there is no way we could be having a conversation without persons with disability being part of the conversation. And I know that even with the social investment programs, we had engagements, several engagements to mainstream them. There is a deliberate effort. And so I would say, as Dame Dolly has said, there is need for continuous advocacy, just like women continue to advocate for gender inclusivity. There is a need for persons with disability to also continue. There is no way anything any program will continue. If you look at all the programs that have been made, that have been produced by the federal government, they always have an angle there's always space for persons with disability. And the National Disability Commission has been set up. It's meant to be working to ensure that there is inclusivity in all government programs and even beyond.
So I'm very happy that you raised it, but the fact that it was not mentioned by speakers doesn't mean that it was overlooked. There's no program that does not have it in mind, and the fact that it wasn't mentioned doesn't mean that it's not part of the process. There are many things that are not mentioned that may not have been mentioned but are part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take a question from the gentleman in front here. And we'll take one last question from the lady in front here. Yes. Have that be our last question so that the next set of panelists can get their session going.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tayo. I'm from an organization called Mind the Gap. Two questions actually. Number one is, we're talking about inclusivity. So first question I'm asking is, there is no balance on the stage. The male ought to also be part of the conversation if we are going to get balance on this conversation. And I think we need to begin to look into that as a matter of, I just want to ask, is there a reason for that? Well, maybe it was an oversight. Then the second question is, if you look at the country that has used gender inclusivity as a powerful tool, was the president of Japan, and he came up with a program called Womenomics. Plans to bring inclusivity to become an economic conversation. So that through that, it's not just say, allow us to go, it's our time, but it's like you are missing something by not allowing us to be a part of this conversation. The richest man in China, Jack Ma, I believe he's still, he said his company is only able to survive because of the unique value that the women brings to the table. So I just want to ask, are there economic conversation that is being brought to this inclusive conversation in order for us to just allow us to see it, because power is not served?
Thank you very much. CP, you want to be able to address that why don't we have the men here? Do we even have enough women for us to now start adding the men to the conversation? This is a gender panel, and when you talk gender, hold on.
You're absolutely right, sir. Yes, gender encompasses both male and female, and it's a misunderstanding. I don't know. I don't have the power to invite you up here, but the points you have made are very valid. And we have many he for she's in this country. I think the Minister for Women Affairs launched that. There are many men. We have to work together to ensure that we have optimal productivity in our country. And the economic conversation is critical, but so is the political and the social, because it's in all aspects of our country's progress that we need the impact of both male and female. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being one of the he for she's. The last question is that lady in front here. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Goodness Mwabueze. I am from Enugu State. I just want to talk about a particular thing concerning this inclusivity that we are talking about. I think it's high time that people actually sit down to diverse means and to find out the pressing issues why gender equality being talked about has not really made grounds, especially in this country. And one of the factors I want to point out is the fact that women do not have so much financial backing. Now, in gender equality is all around the sector, both in politics, in other affairs that women do, and that's what it's about. Now, in politics, if you don't have the financial backing, which women do not have, when it even comes to job opportunities, it's as if 75% of better are for the men. Now, when it comes to even candidates for elections, people will prefer to sponsor male candidates than female, feeling that they have a better chance when it's a male candidate. So all around, women don't have the financial capacity for themselves. So to achieve gender inclusivity and all those things we are talking about, financial factor should be looked into. It is very important. Thank you very much.
Your comment is well noted, and I think that brings us, I'd like to ask my panelists to give us a minute's conclusion on what their thoughts are from what we've said here and what we hope going forward. Since this is a conversation of how the youth can come into the space as far as gender inclusivity is concerned. And the last speaker did mention that it's, at the end of the day, it's all economic as far as she's concerned. Let me give them a chance to give us a 1-minute roundup on what their overall thoughts are, starting from Dame Julie, far left.
Thank you very much. I think for me, the way forward, first of all, is to abolish harmful cultural practices and policies and laws against women. There are so many harmful cultural practices that has made women not to get to their full potentials. We need to change our mindset as well. Women must change their mindset and not think that they have to fall behind a man. Most of the time, even in politics, you see, when a woman comes out, the woman is supporting the man. We are not made to dance, tie wrappers and dance and clap for the men. We are meant to come out and participate equally on equal terms with the men and make sure that we get that seat, whatever that seat is. There's so many areas that we need to look into. In the area of labor, when you're talking about house helps, it has to be a girl. Why should a little girl who should be in school be a house help? Nobody should be watching anyone's house unless you're like 18 and above. So we have to ensure that things like that are put in place. These girls should be in school. We're looking at even the citizenship status. You find a woman who is married to a foreigner, and then she can become automatically a Nigerian citizen a foreign woman overnight. But you find a Nigerian woman married to a foreigner, and it takes like 15 years to get him to be a citizen. You can see that there's so much, imbalance, and all of these things we have to look into, even in the area of passport applications and things like that. And finally, I would like to say that a date should be set aside in the calendar for World Women's Day, not Mother's Day, World Women's Day, to celebrate women all over the world. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say that there's a lot that needs to happen. Cultural change takes time. Customs need time to change. There's a lot that women can offer, but we need to acquire the knowledge to excel and prove that we're actually doing as we can actually do as well. This is for us that are already there. For those that are coming up, I don't think we should take things for granted. We should not insist that we should be at the space just because we're women. We have to be ready for that responsibility, because you will find that you are pioneers in many areas as we're progressing in this country. And unless you can show and demonstrate that you are as good as anybody else, it's going to continue, basically because of the orientation that our country already has. And this orientation is held by both men and women. We ourselves sometimes can be the ones that actually would deny, the progress that women should have. So there's a lot of work to be done. I agree on the mindset, but I also feel we need to assert ourselves. We need to show that we're good enough, and we need to support other women that are striving to come, to emerge. I don't know if it's still there in the agencies. Things like getting married. Before, you would need the approval. For a female to get married, she needs the approval of, it's still there. But for the man to marry up to 4 wives, he can do so without any you know, it's ridiculous because the women and the men, all, if it's because of security screening, all of them need to be screened, or none of them. But there must be a way of creating equity in a lot of these spaces that already exist. And we must work hard. Even the wordings in our constitution, you have to look at the Interpretation Act to see that he includes she. There's a lot in the political space, in the labor area, social issues, economic matters, owning land, you know, having a say in certain places that actually need to be addressed. And it must be deliberate and intentional. So a lot of women's groups and hopefully the Ministry of Women Affairs must focus on these issues and continue to advocate, harp on these issues so that we're able to get, you know, a country that is fair and balanced and progressive. Thank you.
Let me ask CP Cookie what your final thoughts would be.
Thank you very much. I think in all this, the men folk of this country should encourage the women, because it appears all these things we are talking are falling on deaf ears. They are just saying, let them say their own and get away. So the men have to be ready to encourage the women to achieve all that we are talking about. Please, our men folk, you know deep within you that you want things to remain the same way. May the Lord help us. You need to help the women to achieve this inclusivity we are talking about. And women, like my fellow panelists have already said, you have to rise up. You have to change your mindset. You don't have to allow the intimidations of the past to hold you down. Thank you very much.
Finally, let me ask Banke. Banke, your last thoughts on how we can achieve inclusivity. How we can achieve inclusivity.
Okay.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me. So see you.
Let me
Bye.
just see.
are sure you can get it. All right. Two of you. I am faster. May snap 3 of us. I am snap 3 of us. Shama, stand over me. Let's touch round. Yeah, that one. Let me join him. Wait. I'm not putting away. I'm not putting on this. So then we talk about what it is. I want to join him. Yeah, join. We are joining. Join. What they go? Sister, help us with your bag. Yeah. Yeah, don't do shoes. Oh, use another bag now. Okay. Come this place. Who snap with director?